coming up on this edition of Southwest TV News.
And we're hoping to raise some funds for our counseling program, which is extremely busy. In just our social work contracted counseling, we had over 700 visits, and that's not counting on our own private counseling service that we provide.
The overall goal is that we are looking to develop Saskatchewan's very first packaged Indigenous tourism experience that will be sold on global tourism export marketplaces.
2019 marks the 50th anniversary of the Saskatchewan flag. And Anthony Drake, the designer of our provincial flag, will once again be in the spotlight. Thanks for joining us here today. Youth and mental health were the focus of a special event in Swift Current. We have more in today's top story. Every year during Mental Health Awareness Week, numerous events are held across the country, shining the spotlight on the issue. Here in Swift Current, the center hosted a dessert night fundraiser focusing on youth mental health. Throughout the evening, patrons had a chance to sample a variety of desserts, bid on silent auction items, and hear from guest speakers. Nathan Weeb is the executive director for the center and says along with providing a variety of outreach programs for youth in need in the community, counseling for such issues as addictions and mental health are also offered. And the Dessert Night fundraiser was a great way to bring the community together to further assist youth.
The biggest thing is awareness, especially with youth mental health, and bringing people into the conversation and helping people to see that it doesn't actually take much. It takes somebody who's willing to step out of their busy schedule and talk to somebody, encourage somebody, and see what that turns into. And we're hoping to raise some funds for our counseling program, which is extremely busy. In just our social work contracted counseling, we had over 700 visits, and that's not counting on our own private counseling service that we provide, free for the community, free for anybody that needs it. We don't charge. If people outside of kind of the lower income demographic still want to use our counselor, they're more than welcome to. And we always say if you're willing to give a donation, great. If not, then you know what, we're still here. And we want to be a service for Swift Current for the foreseeable future, and can just continue to spread awareness of our counseling, of the youth center itself, and youth mental health.
Weeb further says that today's youth face additional stress from their peers and society as a whole, and the stigma of mental health needs to be addressed in its early stages.
When you look at social media, when you look at societal changes that we're dealing with right now, there's the challenges are increasing and they're getting more difficult to deal with. We're having to change our approach. We're having to change how we speak to youth in our community, and that's not just in our community. That's everywhere. And when you see what social media can do instantly, it's scary, and so to still have the troops on the ground willing to be in the trenches is why we're here, and we have amazing volunteers as well who are walking alongside of us through this process.
Sentiments echoed by the evening's keynote speaker, Jim McGee. McGee was one of the driving forces of getting the center open back in 2010. And through his years of working as a counselor with youth through various aspects of the education system, he says the conversation of youth and mental health is key for a healthier society.
There's a lot of kids, I think, that are growing up today that are growing up with a single parent or with a grandparent, or a lot of dysfunctional homes, and kids are really having a lot of anxiety and a lot of inner struggles, and it's important that the adults have an opportunity to try and share with them their own stories, their own experiences, so that they can help the kids to understand that this is normal in a sense, and but there's hope for them for the future, because they are our future.
According to stats from the Mental Health Commission of Canada, 70% of individuals suffering from mental health illnesses experience the onset of symptoms in childhood and adolescence. More information on the Swift Current Community Youth Initiative and the Center can be found online. The annual 49 by 110 conference was hosted in Swift Current, with one of the main topics of discussion focusing on Indigenous tourism. The annual 49 by 110 conference in Swift Current drew in tourism operators and other special guests from across the province. The one-day event was filled with numerous guest speakers, including Tourism Saskatchewan, speaking on the various aspects of the industry. One of the key discussions focused on Indigenous tourism. Christian Boyle of Glyph Creative Strategy spoke of an Indigenous corridor project in Saskatchewan, set to launch in 2020. Targeting tourists from Germany, the UK, France, China, and the US.
So the partners are Whitecap Dakota First Nation, Wanuskewin Heritage Park, and Beardies and Okimos Cree Nation. The overall goal is that we are looking to develop Saskatchewan's very first packaged Indigenous tourism experience that will be sold on global tourism export marketplaces. And in fact, this may not just Indigenous tourism, but this may be Saskatchewan's first packaged tourism experience that will be purposefully designed to be sold on global export tourism market experiences.
A concept which Boyle says is reflecting the changing interests of tourists.
Tourism's really changed. Millennials are now pushing on the spending power here, and they're interested in experiences. They're actually looking to get down at the community level and engage in experiences that they can't have at home. And those experiences are food experiences, authentic culture experiences. They want to meet people. They want to have something that they find powerful and transformational. I think there's some real critical mass happening now because an Indigenous nation stepped forward with a real investment in tourism infrastructure, and that's what really got the ball rolling, and that's all credit due to Whitecap Dakota First Nation for their vision of developing a resort product. It's always been a bit of a chicken and the egg type situation. People are interested in it, but there's no product on the market, so the market isn't there, and so there's a lot of risk, especially to First Nations who are perhaps unfamiliar with how the tourism industry works.
The aspect of learning about First Nations history and building relationships with community partners is already in place in southwest Saskatchewan, thanks to a long-standing relationship between the Niconeat First Nation and the town of Maple Creek. Dale Mosquito is from Niconeat and part of Cowtown Productions, and says events like the Indian Relay Race are great drawing cards to learn more about First Nations tradition and building new partnerships.
But we thought, wow, what a great event that would brings together what we're trying to perpetuate in our area, which is working together with diverse groups. The sport itself, I mean, you've got I think about 3 to 4 teams. Each team will consist of about 3 or 4 horses, and there's one rider, and everybody else is a holder. But it's thundering. I mean, the horses are racing. It's exhilaration. For the crowd, I mean, you're right into it. You're right there.
He further adds that events like the Indian Relay Race and Indigenous tourism as a whole play a key role in keeping the First Nations history and traditions alive for future generations.
There are some tribes out there that are maybe vanishing, but if you can promote that, it might give you an avenue now where you can sustain it, maintain it, and of course, maybe it's your youngsters that'll collaborate with an elder and hear these stories. Once there's a storyteller and there's people that are listening, then our stories will remain, and that's who we are. We're oral history people. So again, it'll give us a good avenue to go down in, because it's something that maybe we could put in our own personal archives, whether it's our library or school.
The annual 49 by 110 conference is hosted each May by Tourism Swift Current.
We know in the work we do with BirdLife that unless you consult local people, unless you work with them, you will fail.
Well, it's been 50 years since the Saskatchewan flag was designed, and a special event commemorating it is planned for this summer. 2019 marks the 50th anniversary of the Saskatchewan flag, and Anthony Drake, the designer of our provincial flag, will once again be in the spotlight. Anthony Drake, who now resides in England, was a teacher in Hodgeville when he won a contest for designing the provincial flag in 1969. In 2016, Gail Hapanowitz of Hodgeville contacted Drake in England and invited him back to Saskatchewan for a 21-day tour across the province, promoting the flag and meeting students and other residents. Now in 2019, she's going one step further in recognizing Anthony Drake for his contribution to Saskatchewan. First with a letter she sent to the Queen.
I asked her if she could bestow, that's the word you're supposed to use, bestow upon Anthony Drake, the designer of the flag, to, in any way that she felt fit, because he was her constituent and he designed a flag for her Commonwealth country's province. And I'm pretty sure not a whole lot of people can say that. So I'm probably one in the world. And so I sent it out October 30th, and I never heard back. And about a month ago, I said to my husband, I don't think I'm going to get a response from the Queen. I was disappointed. And then about a week later, I go to the mailbox, and there was a letter that said Buckingham Palace on it. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I brought it home, and she thanked me. And I thought that was so great. But she shouldn't have thanked me. She should have thanked Anthony Drake. That's what I wanted her to do, and maybe she still will. I don't know that.
And following her ongoing discussions with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Anthony Drake will return to the province this summer for a special event at Mosaic Stadium, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Saskatchewan flag.
But they're having an event called Saski Days, and it's July 6th. So Anthony is going to come in July instead of September, and which gives me just a short window to organize. And we're going to go to the Rough Riders game, but they're playing the Stampeders that day, where we're going to do. He's doing an announcement, and I don't know all of his plans, but I know I have to write a bio and send it to them. And we're going to be guests in the stadium in front of 33,000 people. So that's bigger than last time, I think.
Plans are also in the works to have Anthony Drake meet up with the Premier and Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan this summer. Saskatchewan Flag Day is commemorated each year on September 22nd. Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here by phone at our studio or by email to contact us at southwesttvnews.com. Also, be sure to join us daily online to the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at southwesttvnews.com. And be sure to follow us on a range of social media. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.